Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Big Fitness Podcast. I'm here with Sam Schaefer. Dude, thank you for coming on the show.
Dude, happy to be here. Stoked to have another opportunity to tell my story.
Absolutely, man. And you have a remarkable story, man. So you're an amputee, and you had some military experience, I believe.
Smidge.
You've been a trainer for about 10 years. And are you primarily training people who are like general population people, or like amputee special population?
I'm about 50-50 right now.
Okay, gotcha. Awesome. And has that been within that 10 years of time, or just now? That's just more recent?
So the amputee has grown a lot in the last 9 or so months. Middle of last year, I left my coaching job partly to give myself the space and time to dive deeper into that community who is just dreadfully underserved. And it's not through anything malicious. It's just the fact that there's just only so many people who actually have felt what it's like to be an amputee and have truly had the knowledge on not just the mechanics of the movement, but the understanding on how to communicate, how people learn, how to actually teach. It's one thing to be able to recite a textbook. It's a whole nother thing to be able to actually put it into play. So there's a lot of things that have to go into that mixture to be very, very good at serving that specific niche. And there's just not a lot of it. And I felt the opportunities were right. The universe was talking, and I left my job so I could do that.
Dude, that is fucking awesome, man. And so just for everybody who is learning about you for the first time now, let's start with, dude, who are you? What are you? Why are you, man? What is the story?
All right. 2008, 2009, I'm going to the University of Missouri. I start to realize really early on in my third semester, I was like, this isn't doing anything for me. This is not taking me a place that I want to go. And I'm only 3 semesters in. So my brother had just gotten back from a deployment. We went to see him with my dad, and I went to see him when he got home. And I just kind of had this feeling in my chest and in my gut that I'm supposed to be on the other side of this line. So I ended up leaving school ended up joining the Air Force for a special operations job called combat control. Most of the Air Force is support, but they do have a couple of jobs that are combat related. This was one of them. And I felt very connected, and I was like, yep, let's go. So I'm in that career field. I'm in the training pipeline, year and a half-ish in. I'm in Biloxi, Mississippi at Keesler Air Force Base at Air Traffic Control School. And on a run, we're running back from the pool. I clip a curb, come down on the outside of my foot, and rolled my ankle so bad. I remember feeling my heel, like the inside of my heel, call all the way up and touch my ankle. In my infinite wisdom, I know I'm here to go. I got up and finished the run.
How much more was on the run?
About a mile.
About a mile.
About a mile. Had a little bit of gear with us. Unfun, but adrenaline, again, this is what I'm here for. So that was my last moment out of pain for the next 9 years. The second that run stopped, the adrenaline wore off. It was wild. I've yet to figure out exactly how to express in words verbally that does it any justice. But
Give it a shot.
Real bad.
Yeah.
I literally could feel, it felt like there was a rod in my leg that was just radiating pain from the very middle out. And then it just didn't go away. Mm-hmm. Turned out that I ended up with a nerve condition called complex regional pain syndrome. And this is the only condition. So there is an actual pain chart out there, a McGill pain chart, I believe is what it's called.
That's like the 1 through 10 one?
A little bit more in depth. It actually puts breaking a bone. Natural childbirth is number 2 on that list. CRPS is number 1. So that ended up dominating the next 9 years of my life. And it was a extremely low probability thing. The fact that if you've met me, you probably aren't going to meet anybody else with it unless you work in a field that would find those people. It was a 0.00026% chance that would happen on that trauma.
Dude, during those 9 years, what were you on the scale? And is it in and out, or is it consistent? How does that come?
It was constant. I don't really remember getting below a 4, and I was regularly seeing 8, 9, 10. I can't talk pain.
And it would just spout out, or was it when you were working out? Could you work out?
All the above. So like I would wake up some mornings and it was just already there. And then like started to realize like, okay, I'm going to be in pain no matter what I do. I enjoy training. I'm going to keep doing this because I feel that that's my best chance. Because 15 months in, I had already, like basically every known treatment had already failed. I had been put on tons of prescriptions that didn't help. Basically force-fed tramadol while I was still active duty before I actually was medically released or medically discharged. And so at this point, I'm basically left to my own devices because there's not, I mean, if you take a look at the name of the condition, it's not well understood. Complex regional pain syndrome.
Right.
What did you learn?
Yeah, like there's pain in a regional, in a specific place.
Right? Like
that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. So
like regional pain.
So it's so uncommon. It's very poorly understood. Some people respond to certain treatments. I did not. So I realized that like, well, I like to train and everything else hurts no matter what. So why not? But over those years, things started being kind of stripped away. So I was a CrossFit guy. So I went back to my CrossFit gym. And this is, you know, at this point now we're 2013. And I'm just doing my best. And to be honest, I am deeply in denial. I am deeply in denial. I'm 22, 23, being told that my life is over. So I went.
Oh, who's telling you that?
The doctors.
So your doctors were telling you that you can't be doing anything?
You'll never run again. You'll never play soccer again. You'll never do CrossFit again. You can't be in the combat control pipeline. There's really nothing in the military you can do. Yada yada yada. Like that's all I'm being given.
And you're saying like, fuck no.
I'm like, this can't be it.
Gotcha.
So I took the very mature thing and went into denial.
Right.
You know? Very, very mature 23-year-old hard charging move.
Sounds about right.
And so, like I said, so it came a point where certain high impact, like running was one of the first things to go, just could not deal with running. Jumping rope. But then it became so severe that like coming off of a pull-up bar, if I landed off of a pull-up bar wrong, I could get 2 weeks of extra pain. And I was already that's how like sensitive this all became. And so now this all gets pulled away and now any prolonged intensity. So CrossFit's now gone. That's out. Excuse me.
Oh, you're all good.
I didn't know if I was getting ready to cough or what. But anyway, so now this is gone. So I move into Olympic weightlifting. Okay, I can set my feet. It's I wanted something that was going to challenge me, so there's a high level of accuracy required in all of that. The acceleration, I was like, okay, this is what I was going to do. Did that for a little while. Worked with one of the better Olympic lifting coaches remotely. I was like, at the minimum, I'm going to learn and learn and learn so I can teach and teach and teach. Because I remember having a coach in the first my first 6 months of CrossFit. He hurt his shoulder. And he realized, I remember him talking about it, about a weekend of coaching in a sling, about how much less prepared he felt to coach verbally only, because there were so many things he couldn't demonstrate now.
Right.
I don't know why I remembered that. There was no reason for me to remember that, but I did. So I was like, okay, well, at least I'm going to learn all these things. So learn these fine details and learn how to describe them and audibly and be able to verbally cue these things if there comes a time when I cannot just show it. So that was kind of my idea there. That came a point where my function continued to decrease, pain continued to increase. So I would have times, I'd have days where I couldn't get my left leg to push. Okay. There came a point where got to move on. I don't know why I decided the Scottish Highland Games, I'm going to be on, or do you guys have a rating here we're going for?
What do you mean?
Fuck. Is that good?
Yeah. Oh no. Oh yeah. Fuck. Yeah. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Dude, say what. Dude,
okay.
Anything goes
Cool.
in this podcast.
Cool. So there came a point where I was like, I think the Highland Games was a little bit of fuck it. This is something I think is cool. This is something I think I want to do. I'm never gonna get. I may never get another chance. We're gonna do it now. We're putting the gas. We're putting the gas down. Moved to a different coach that understood Highland Games and how to strength train with it. This is I learned a lot about the conjugate method from him, Tom Stroka. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He is Very, very good.
He's like in the Highland Games, or is it strongman?
So he is kind of, I would say he's considered like a lower level pro.
Gotcha.
He's not like a top 5 guy, but he's a pro. He actually does have his strongman pro card now as well. But like as a coach, we were just on the same page.
Okay, gotcha.
Our coaching came first. Our own personal athletics was second.
Gotcha. Okay.
So he understood that. And so then I'm learning a whole bunch of things there. So I'm learning to throw, and like we have a point where I'm box squatting and I've got 190 kilos on my back. So 419. Rep 1, smooth and easy. Rep 2, smooth and easy. I get down to the box on rep 3 and my left leg just stops. I go to stand up and I twist because only my right leg was doing anything. Got put in a real dangerous spot. Things like this continued to happen over those 9 years. These things just I kept losing. I was so determined to stay in the game, but I just kept losing. So now it's like, it's not really even safe for us to do box squats. We figured it out, a Hatfield squat worked out. Moved on to those, and just, it was that continual evolution. And that's how the evolution went, is we had to keep working around what I was losing.
Have you always been pushing yourself even before you hurt your left leg in that ruck, like in the military? Before that, have you always, I know that was like early on, but even as like a young kid, were you just kind of built to push yourself and say like, hey, look, fuck your facts, I'm going to keep doing it?
I would say I'm the only one that believed in my ability to do that. So I didn't do it a whole lot. Like, I played soccer in high school and got told that like lifting weights would make me worse. So I didn't,
Yeah.
I was given a lot of very discouraging advice growing up. So while like there was that piece of me that knew who I could be, it didn't really start getting expressed until I put my hand on the wheel of life and left school. That's when that guy really got to start showing up.
Gotcha.
And just in time. Unfortunately, just in time. That version of me, that version of me that I always knew that I could be and that I always saw myself as, that's when this guy started to be like, hey, it's my time.
And that's like when you started with this pain at like minimum 4 consistent in your right leg. And is it like it was in your calf, like tibia, fibula?
Ankle, foot, up the shin.
Okay, gotcha.
Never really went above the knee.
Okay.
And then, but yeah, it was mostly mid shin or lower.
Okay, gotcha. And so are you saying that's the point that you could really be that guy, or is there another point?
He kind of started showing up in the military.
Okay.
So like, again, I was in a special operations career field. I actually fractured my femur on day 3 of selection. It's a 14-day course. Finished the course up.
You fractured your femur?
Yeah.
Like, how bad was the fracture?
I don't know why he said it like this, but he said you were less than 2 millimeters away from needing a rod from your hip to your ankle.
Oh man, dude.
Unfun.
Yeah, and you were pushing yourself through that?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you can deal with it.
I knew what I was there for.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Love that. And so you got this kind of ability. And that was before.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. And so you pushed through that, and now you're starting to show up as this guy. Mm-hmm. So you're now like 9 years in. What happens 9 years in that you're like, okay, like something's got to change?
Something's got to change, yeah. So it was about 8 years in. So we're about 8 years into this journey. And things had been just spiraling. Like I had multiple waves of like, I don't know what happens if this gets worse. And then it got worse. I don't understand how this can get worse. It got worse again. And so at this point, I hadn't slept in 9 years. Struggling to talk. I can't express myself. I'm so blocked up and definitely in the spiral of depression. There came an evening where I'm a very objective person, and like that saved me in a lot of ways because I couldn't rely on how I felt because the answer at all times to how do you feel is terrible.
Yeah. So
I knew enough to know that I couldn't rely on how do you feel. I would have done nothing. I would have sat on my couch. I would have been bedridden. Never would have gotten here. I just gotten to the point where I just done the math, and I'm like, I'm almost 30 only. I'm on a forearm crutch. I had been on a cane for a little bit, and the cane was no longer enough. So I knew what was next. I was going to a wheelchair. And I'm sitting there like, this can't be, like, what am I doing? I was like, I felt guilty because I felt like I was doing this to my wife. Like, this can't be her life. She's too special to spend her life taking care of a big baby. We wanted the possibility of kids. I couldn't be a dad. She wouldn't even have the space to be a mom because I was in such bad shape. And unfortunately, at a certain point, the math came out to zero for why am I here. And I was ready to take my own life. I was just trying to figure out how to not hurt other people. And that's the only problem I couldn't solve.
And how did you come out of that? Like mentally, what was the thing that like drove you to make a decision to not go that route?
I started filtering all my decision making. Again, I had to get rid of how do you feel. I started filtering all my decision making through a really simple question. Does this make me my best? And I knew that the best version of myself at the time was not very good. What makes me my best? And at a certain point, it was end it or amputation. I'm ending something. And so I didn't choose amputation. I chose to be the best version of myself for my wife. Plain and simple. And amputation was the only thing left as a potential solution for the life that I knew that I wanted, that was worth living, to get that what am I here for, to get above zero, that I felt like I was at. And so for better and for worse, after that evening, I talked to my wife the next morning, and I was like, this is what's got to happen. Because we had already discussed this as like, if this happens, if this potentially needs to be the case, we had already kind of talked it out. So I already knew that she was on my team. And so I kind of ran away from that version of me right there. I felt like I had to. I had to get reacquainted with him in the healing process a year or so later. But that's what I did. I was like, everything is about setting myself up for amputation. Every decision was what makes me my best. And again, amputation is what I felt made me my best. I went to the VA shortly after this, requested, and got told no.
What do you mean?
I mean, I asked my general care provider that I would like a surgical consult for an amputation, and she tried to tell me no.
Like you couldn't get a consultation about this direction?
That's what she tried to tell me, yes.
And what was her reason?
I think this is extreme.
Well, I guess it is kind of extreme. I guess
it is.
But yeah, like so. Okay, this is extreme. Did they deal with people coming to just like get their cut their arms off for no reason, legs off?
I say it wasn't for no reason.
Right.
It was just a reason she didn't care about.
Right.
Like early on when I got out, there came a point where they were trying to just give me a Vicodin prescription, like an unending, unlimited supply of Vicodin, on a condition that we have no idea, on a timeline that we have no idea how to fix. We know how that story goes.
Yeah.
There's this whole opioid epidemic.
Straight up.
And I brought that up. I was like, I don't think this is safe. Yada, yada, yada. They looked me dead in the eye. I'll never forget this. Woman with dark hair. That's all I remember. I remember her eyes. I remember the eye contact, and I remember she had dark hair. Well, it must not be that bad then. Yeah, in a medical setting. I have a condition that medical professionals will call the suicide disease, because that is one of the most common causes of death with CRPS is suicide. She tells me it must not be that bad.
And what did you do at that point? Right when you heard that?
Fucked off. I was like, well, okay, you guys aren't here to help me. The stories are true. And I went and took everything. I was like, I just got to take care of it myself. And so I did.
And so then what's the next step? Then do you approach somebody out of I guess network? How does it go?
I stayed on the gas because there is no out of network for the VA.
Oh, gotcha.
So I just stayed on the gas and I was like, no. And she tried to, do this. And so I did it and I get the consult.
Okay. So they eventually let you do it.
And then the guy walks in and he goes, he's like, if you get this amputation, you will fail. Not, hi, I'm Dr. Zakari. Not, how are you doing? What's going on? He walks in and tells me, if you get amputation, you will fail.
Why do you think they were? Why do you think that they were telling you no, telling you would fail, not to do it?
Because they don't understand what's going on, and this protects them from having to learn. On top of that, amputation is seen as a failure, and they're like on paper.
Okay, I see.
So they were more concerned about their own comfort than what I'm dealing with as their patient.
Yeah,
I'm not important in this equation.
And so you were able to convince this guy who's like,
oh God, no.
Okay, gotcha.
No.
Well, so how do you continue
nasty.
pushing?
It got nasty. He made me redo a bunch of treatments that failed. And if you know anything about the condition, which he's supposed to, the further out from the data trauma you get, the less the success rate for all treatments goes way down. I'm now 8 years out from my injury. These things failed within the first 12 months of my injury. So there's basically a 0% chance, and we already knew that they didn't work. I ended up getting another sympathetic nerve block. So I had an injection in my spine, didn't work. Had an injection done into my leg, actually just killed my leg for 3 days. I literally couldn't move my leg for 3 days. Because this injection hit it, bled into a nerve, and that So they're trying to shut things down, and none of it's working.
So none of those actually help the pain even.
No, that was the worst part.
So then it's like you just can't use it, and there's still pain.
Yes.
Wow.
So nothing is work. So they keep giving me the runaround, and I keep checking all the boxes, and they keep acting in a manner that they are not allowed to act. Fast forward about 8 months into this battle, I end up I'm angry. I end up penning a 4-page letter and put it into called My Healthy Vet. So it's it's an online portal for communication between my care team and myself. I put it in there because I know it can't be edited. I know things had, at this point in that letter, included things that had been changed in my file, or things that were in my file inappropriately. Multiple of these notes said perfectly healthy 29-year-old seeking amputation. Got CRPS. I'm not perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
But how else is anyone going to read that? I saw one surgeon, and all of a sudden now I've got 4 consults that say I should not be given an amputation. I should not be granted the amputation, as though it's some big prize.
Oh man.
And I'm like, I put that in there. I was like, if you take a look at my file, you've got three doctors that have penned letters speaking against my amputation that couldn't pick me out in a room because they've never met me. I was like, in the letter, I believe I even flat out used the word collusion, because there were things that were going on. I was being lied to about certain programs. There's the Community Cares Act that got signed in, which was, if you are a VA patient and the VA cannot see you within 30 days of your contact point, so we don't have an appointment for over a month, they owe me a consult outside in my community. So that's the only out of the system you can get. So there were multiple times when I was supposed to be granted that. I requested it, and one guy went as far as to say, oh, that program doesn't exist anymore. It's been defunded. Little did he know, I had just gotten off the phone with him scheduling another different kind of appointment. So it obviously, I had basically, this whole letter proved a bunch of lies, and I basically ended with, I would like my community cares consult to the surgeon I should have been given, because at this point I know the surgeon I should be going to. I found him. And the specialist in the country is in St. Louis.
Dude, that's kind of nice.
Unreal.
Yeah.
The story does get better, I promise.
Yeah, right. 100%.
And I think I ended it something along the lines of, if you guys don't want to give me this consult like you're supposed to, I'm sure there's some local news that would love to take this story on. It took 36 hours.
There we go,
36
dude.
hours. I had an appointment.
Dude, that's really what it comes down to anymore to get anything done, dude. You just gotta you just gotta have some kind of way to get the story out to the media.
It sucks that
man.
I had to threaten people.
No, but you had to do what you had to do.
I had to threaten my care team that's allegedly there for me.
That's and that kind of is a whole other story too. Like, what the fuck with all of that?
Yeah, it's
because it does really seem like they were kind of like, we're not going to let you do this.
Yeah, they were like, hey, it's easier and cheaper if you just off yourself.
Yeah, that's what it said. Like, that's what it sounds like coming from you.
Yeah, like, for example, I requested a therapist to talk this out before I ever even requested the amputation, because I knew that's where they would go.
Okay, gotcha.
You're not in sound mind.
Yeah.
Or we want to know that you are. So I wanted to get ahead of it. I wanted to show that, like, no, I am. And so, like, that was something that got posed really early on. Well, I think you should see a therapist. I was like, well, if you were looking at my file, you'd see I already am. He's right down the hall. He's in this building. I've been seeing him for the last month. I'm going to talk to him.
Gosh.
I get with an attitude. What'd he say? Like the next time I talk to her, I don't think that's important right now. Because what he told her was that I am clear-headed. I've thought this out. I understand the risks, the consequences of what I'm requesting, and that he believes that there's nothing about my mental state that should detract from my request.
Yeah, and this would be something in my mind that would be absolutely the last option that you could possibly go for.
Yes.
Yeah, and it sounds like you have done all of it.
Yes, exactly. I did the work.
Yeah.
Like, there was one thing that, like, if I did anything in this whole process from the day I got hurt, is I gave myself undeniable proof that I will stick and I will trust the process. I will work, I will show up, and I will be consistent. I worked my ass off for 8-9 years with no light at the end of the tunnel, just simply trying to be prepared in case I see a little bit of light. So I knew all I had to do. I was like, I'm looking around. I'm like, no, there are amputees doing stuff. I can be one of those. Plain and simple. I get my consult. I go and I meet with the surgeon, Dr. Felder. I think it took 20 minutes. And he was like, yeah, of course. He's like, of course you're a candidate for an amputation on this. I'm so sorry for what you've dealt with. And he wasn't even talking about the VA stuff. He said nothing that we had done in those 8 months of fighting and all the extra procedures I was forced to do, all the extra hoops there was nothing in there that he's like, if I would have been sent to him in February like I should have been, he would have done the surgery right then. This is also during COVID. So I could have actually recovered at home and never missed a day of work because we were all remote.
Damn, yeah, that's 100% right.
So, that's a hindsight 2020 thing. I understand that, but it's like an extra little jab in the ribs.
In like in hindsight, like you say, in the grand scheme of things, do you feel like there was a reason why that happened? Like, you kind of a person who believes things happen for a reason?
No.
No, so you just think like this is kind of just happened?
I think the reason was people didn't want to do their job.
Yeah, I think that's right. 100%.
I think that's the reason. I think that there's a poor standard of care at the VA overall. There are some amazing practitioners. There are some amazing employees. They're just not the rule. They're the exception, and that's the reason. So I don't personally get too into that one. I do believe in alchemy and my ability to turn that into what I've turned it into. But to me, that's not quite the same thing.
Yeah, no doubt, 100%. So, and then so you got your surgery. Were there any complications with that surgery? Kind of explain that process, yes. And then kind of how your mind shifts from you go in to you come out.
All right. So it was a 9-hour surgery. Oddly, actually, funny enough, it was my very first surgery. I've never had another surgery before. I think I went under to have a wisdom teeth taken out. That's the closest thing. Yeah. So I was given a very cutting edge amputation. When you do it electively, they can plan out the tissues there. And I was given, I jokingly refer to, I got the Gucci amputation. I got some work done in there that surgeon went to work for me 9 hours. And yeah, I don't even remember getting the sedative. It was so strong. And So I remember going back, and then all of a sudden I wake up. The very first thing I said was, "This isn't what I was wearing when I got here." I was in a different gown. Apparently I'd sweat through the other gown, and they had changed it on me. Okay, what I was referring to. But they were already laughing. Like, so I don't know what I was saying before. And then my surgeon comes and hands me the phone. And it's my wife. It's 9 p.m. Visiting hours are over. So I don't get to see her that night. And he goes, "It's your wife." And I was just like, "Oh, what up, dog?" It worked. And that's what I told her. Plain and simple. I was like, I woke up, and for the first time in 9 years, the very first moment, I was not in pain.
Dude, that is fucking incredible, man.
I didn't know what to do. I was so disoriented. And it wasn't just the dilated.
So you were... Yeah, you just explained a little bit more of that, because that has almost got to be like 9 years of dealing with constant pain.
Have you ever had like pressure relieved of something, like that amazing adjustment, or I don't even know. Like you had something sitting on you, and like it just gets pulled off, and you're like, "Oh man, I can breathe." I breathed for the first time in 9 years, and like unencumbered by crippling pain. And I just didn't know what to do. I was disoriented. Like, where am I? What is going on? Like, my brain didn't know what to do, because so much of my brain capacity had been spent trying to process the severe pain that I was in and still function, still have conversations, still maintain a job, do anything possible to move the needle forward on something. It no longer had that obstacle. Are you familiar with the legend of Sisyphus?
It sounds familiar, but I don't.
So Sisyphus is man, I hope I don't get this wrong. I always hate it whenever I say this.
Dude,
Greek.
Dude, Trey, just check that out real quick. Keep doing it, Trey. Check out that. And then
part of Greek mythology. And Sisyphus was tasked with pushing this rock up the hill every day.
Yeah, 100%.
But at the end of the day, the top of the hill never existed. So what did he do the next day? Just kept pushing the rock. Just kept pushing. There's no end in sight. My journey felt very Sisyphus, and now the rock was gone. But now think of how strong you become pushing a rock for 9 years constantly. All the tools you have to develop to cope, to recover, to survive. I now had these tools at my disposal, and there was no longer a rock in front of me.
How did your mind adapt to that? What started happening directly after?
Oh man, it was all over the place. Emotions were all over. You know, part of that is like I said, the drugs and all that. But there was just like, it was a huge emotional release. I cried a lot. There was a lot of crying. I think there was a point where like I was talking to my wife when I got back to my room, and I am just like bawling, because like apologizing to my wife for everything that she had ever had to deal with my pain and all this sort of stuff. It's finally, I'm like able to get this out. And I think I remember the nurse coming by, peeking her head and just closing the door. Like, I'm going to let him have his moment.
For sure.
Like, and it was wildly, it was like, oh man, like, I will never experience anything like that again. Like I said, like on a lighter note, like my wife could just tell, we called it pinging, because it was like a ping pong ball bouncing around in my brain from all the space to do karate now. And
yeah, straight up.
I hadn't had it, especially as an adult. We know what we know about brain development. Continues until you're about 25 before anything gets solidified. Well, this all started at like 2021.
Yeah.
So like that was so built into who I was. And now my brain just has this space that it's never really had before as an adult. And to be able to, like, it just took a long time to sort it out.
I was going to say, how are you navigating this newfound space that is not being occupied?
One step at a time.
One step at a time.
Like, it really was like, my wife would just be like, "You're pinging." And we'd laugh because we knew how good that was. I would just be all over the place sometimes. Like, I didn't know what, like, I had all this energy to fight, and now I didn't have to fight anymore. Like, I didn't have to fight this invisible thing in front of me anymore. I didn't have to deal with the fact that I was in massive pain and no one can see it and no one could understand it. The majority of the people in my life didn't all the way believe it was there, or they didn't respect it because they couldn't see it. And now what's funny is now I'm out of pain. I have this incredible life, and everybody thinks so oh, I'm so sorry for you, because they can see the disability. I was like, nah, this ain't, like, this is hard, but it's not the hardest thing. Like, this is the second hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I'm good.
9 years is long enough to create an identity around something that's consistent pain of any kind.
Yes.
Did you have identity issues right off the bat?
So that was tough for me. One, because I was aware of that and I didn't want it. Two, it was invisible. So even on like people that I confide, that I would like talk to about it, only so many of them actually believed me, cared. Like, I could tell, like, there were people that, like, you know, that I knew that weren't taking it, that knew that, or just kind of thought that, oh, it's just Sam. It's just Sam. He's just kind of a miserable asshole. Well, yeah, I'm in severe pain. Like, I'm struggling to have this conversation. Sorry, you know. Sorry for your loss, bud. You know, it became something that I had to apologize for whenever I'm sitting here working tirelessly to deal with it. And, like, there were people that, you know, whenever I let people, I told my family, and then I'd put something on social media saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm moving forward with, yada, yada, yada. And I got contacted by some people, and I could tell, they called to see how I was doing, but really I needed to console them. They didn't realize that I was actually in a bad place because they couldn't see it. And so there was a lot of that. And, you know, I don't hold any malice in my heart about it, but I know who they were, you know, and that's their thing. That's their deal to deal with. But, like, so, like, there was a lot of that. And then, like I said, then there was those few people that believed in what I was dealing with, that believed I was doing my best, and felt that I deserved some support.
Dude, now, like, I think the craziest thing is that you come out of this thing as an amputee. You have to now deal with that, which I want to ask some questions about that. But now it's like you have accomplished a lot of amazing things. You set 5 world records, correct? Like in various.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool afternoon.
Yeah, pretty cool afternoon. I love that. So, dude, you're currently fighting, and I want to go into that as well. Have you used that, all of that fucking experience now to, like, win?
Yeah.
And how have you done it? Dude, like, go into now,
like what?
Like, how this thing has become like a utility to you almost.
Yeah. So like I said, now it's, you know, you work in the gym space. You know that the magic is not in the sets and reps. You know that the magic isn't in a squat PR, because I'm sorry, but a back squat PR only really means anything if you're back squatting.
You're right.
The magic happens when they start to understand the process and what they can do for themselves and their ability to improve themselves and change themselves and to mold themselves, and then take that control and they take it outside of here. And now they apply that lesson to life. They understand the control they have, that their actions, their inputs provide their outputs. When you're choosing to do X, you're not choosing to do X, you're choosing the result of X. Kind of like what I talked about before. I didn't choose amputation. I chose to be the best version of me. Amputation is what had to happen for that. So I didn't choose to be I didn't choose because I wanted to be missing a foot. I simply wanted to be the best version of me because I knew I believed in how special that can be. And you know that in here because people get that lesson at a much smaller scale than I got it, but they get that lesson. So now I had to realize, like, now I've got these tools to cope with. I've got this perspective. And now I'm going to take this and I'm going to keep using them. This is why I am so big on the chop wood, carry water. Chop wood, carry water. What's that? So it's an old monk philosophy. If we're going to, I don't know if that's exactly the right phrasing for it, but I viewed it. It's an old, like, monk philosophy. And so a monk's path to enlightenment, right? The sound we track with that. Like that's kind of like to our world, it's the goal for them. And what does a monk do before enlightenment? They chop wood and they carry water. And what do they do after enlightenment? They chop wood and they carry water.
Gotcha.
If chop wood, carry water is a euphemism for the basics and taking care of yourself and doing what you need to do every day, repeatedly, these are the things that I did. I had chopped wood, carried water. That's what got me to amputation. Why would I stop doing that? All the internal work, all the personal work, all the discipline, and all of that, I now got to use it to move forward because that rock was no longer in front of me as I start to weave metaphors in and out with Sisyphus.
I was just gonna say, no, I love that. I love that. Like you know about some of this Greek philosophy, you know about some of this, like these monk teachings. When you were dealing with pain / afterwards, do you train your mind? It sounds like you're very well versed.
It was my only weapon.
Yeah, it sounds like you're very well versed in that you understand the architecture of your mind, and that is a skill I've found. How have you built that?
I earned it. I dealt with it. I didn't disassociate from my pain.
Are there tools that you used?
Very much. Meditate. That's how I started with meditation, breath work, cold immersion, journaling. All these things were tools. It's no different than a hammer. And I had to know which hammer to bring out when. And I had to get bigger and better and stronger. And I could give it all away, or I could continue to chop wood and carry water. So now I've got all this stuff, and like you said, like it was hard fought. Like it was really hard fought. There was a point where I had this huge I'm literally probably in the cold tub. This is not a prescription. I'm probably 15 minutes in at this point because it's the only thing I could do sometimes to get it to calm down. And as soon as I had to get out, the pain was back up here. It would get it down because it would just the nervous system work. And I was like, okay, I'm not in pain. I'm experiencing pain. Experiences end.
I see. Explain that. That's hell yeah. Explain that.
So I'm working on it. Like I'm still trying to all the way under. Like I will be on a lifelong pursuit of trying to figure out how the hell I did this.
Yeah.
That is my life's work now, is to try to understand how the hell I survived what I did and how I can use it to help others. So like instead of sitting there thinking I'm in pain, well, you're in the car. Well, when you're in the car and the car is moving, you can't just get out of the car. You feel stuck. I'm not in pain. I'm experiencing pain. This current moment is an experience. I just have to stick it out. And I have to be ready to be my best at the end of this. And that's what I refuse to disassociate from my pain, which is what makes the pain epidemic we have in this country worse. Is so many people, they get in pain and they try to figure out how to disassociate from it. I leaned into it and said, I have to understand it. I have to be there for it. Because if I'm going to be in pain anyway, I need to take everything I can. I need to squeeze every drop out of this experience I can if I'm going to be my best. And I had to make it that. It was not that easy, but it was that simple. And if I could do that, I gave myself a chance. My wife deserved that. I deserved that. I don't know that I believed it at the time. I was very motivated by what I felt my wife's life experience should be. I think it's probably easier that way when you're in it. But I was so invested in thinking like, I have to get everything I can out of this. And at that point, it's just, again, you just chop wood, carry water. You just got to keep doing it. I didn't give myself another choice.
Man, your perspective on it is, I mean, in your extreme circumstance, your perspective on your situation was, this could have went a totally different way, and probably more often than not, it does.
It almost always does.
And it almost always does, and that's what I'm fascinated by, how you could maintain I am not a victim to my situation. I'm going to use this thing. It's going to be like, it sounds like you were able to use this thing as a tool. And now even afterwards, like, and this is what I'm also kind of interested in, and you can maybe go into this, like how the relationship you have with the pain that it requires to fucking win now has got to be nothing to you. How did you?
It's choice.
100%. How do you use it now?
I don't have to work hard. Like, I don't have to work as hard as I do to simply get by. I know how low the bar is in life in general right now, and people are fighting to lower it. It's even worse when you're an amputee. Like, when you have a visible disability, someone is going to stop you at the grocery store and simply tell you, I think it's great what you're doing. What they're referring to is leaving the house.
Is that real?
Yeah.
That's really happens to you?
Yeah, often.
Wow.
People walk up and just, thank you for your service. They don't know if I was in. Like, they don't know if I was in the military. the expectation of me is low. I've done like, I was talking to another person about this. Like, when I finish races, like running, when I come in smooth, everyone's like, oh, an amputee did it. But man, if I limp across, people are going to get really excited if I limp across, because that's what they want to see. They don't want to see me equal you. They want to see that I'm below you. They want to see that I'm lower, and that they think that props them up. And that is the worldview. And like, that is the experience that I have. And to be real frank, fuck that.
Right. Fuck that.
Like, I'm not interested in that. I don't care what you want. I'm in it for me.
Is that a chip on your shoulder? Is that why you broke 5 world records?
No, I don't care.
And now you're fucking training for a fight. I watched you fucking, I watched some of your videos, man. You're fucking good. You're going to fucking kill somebody.
That's the plan, man. You don't get paid for extra time in there.
That's awesome. Yeah, dude. So talk about that. Talk about that now. So like,
The
just
the athletic journey?
Yeah, your athletic journey.
Okay.
You have said fuck off. And I'll ask you, I want to ask you questions, but I'm sure you get ad nauseum questions about the actual leg. And I do want to know more about that.
You know how many people are going to listen to this and have no clue who I was?
That's exactly right. I know. But I feel like
I'm good with that.
I feel like I just had a conversation with you because I just finished a podcast you were on, and I feel like I don't want to I feel like I don't want to ask all the same questions, but you're right, 100%.
Do your thing, man.
So we'll get into it. But yeah, so like,
okay, so
you started. You're like, you got back into. How long until you get back into athletics and just start breaking fucking records and getting after winning?
Okay, so obviously I got back to moving right away. The second I got my leg, I was in a trap bar. I actually used a deadlift to learn how to walk. And that immediately told me that physical therapy could be done much better for people like myself. And that's another big personal goal is when it's all said and done, when the curtain closes on me, I would like to know that I have changed how physical therapy goes for amputees when they first get their leg. It can be done better, and I'm here for it. So like right away, CrossFit background, that's what I knew. It had been taken away from me. I needed to do it at least a little bit more. I ended up being, within a year, little over a year. Just over a year. Yeah, because I was down in Miami, and I had my leg for about 13 months. I was on the first all-adaptive team to qualify for and compete in a major CrossFit competition in the able-bodied division. We were in the scale division, but it was me and 2 other amputees. They hit me up on Instagram like, hey, would you be interested in doing this? And I was like, fuck yeah, that's something I'm trying to do. I want to go show how well this shit can be done. This is a great way to do it. So we did not do the adaptive division. We did the able-bodied division. So that was kind of like, fuck it, let's go. I'm on it. Also told me, as it currently stands, I don't need to do a bunch more CrossFit. I started CrossFit in 2010. Like, I did CrossFit before Rich Froning did CrossFit. He just did way better. Gotcha. He's more important than I am, but I've been doing it for a long time. I needed to go back and minimum end it on my terms. So I'm not closing the door on that forever, but currently it just doesn't excite me. I've just done enough of it from a competitive landscape. So as I'm doing that, I'm also exploring. I get really heavy into exploring what are the missing links in the current CrossFit formula. Like in terms of if the idea is to develop the most complete human, we haven't done that yet. So I start exploring that more. I start playing with rotation. I start throwing again. Or I actually didn't start throwing again. I had somebody reach out to me. He runs an organization called Broken Caber, Matt Hall, and he sends me a DM on Instagram. This is kind of how apparently that's how all this stuff, it's how my wife and I got together. She sent me a DM, and it just kind of keeps snowballing, right? So he sends me this DM. He's like, hey, I heard you used to throw. You have any interest in doing it again now that you're up and walking? And I was like, let me go do a couple drills. And I was like, and my thought was if I go back to Highland Games, it's going to be a couple of years, yada, yada, yada. So I was like, I'm going to at least, this guy believes in me enough to reach out. And the drills go really well. Fuck.
Right. God, dude.
I was like, so I sent him the videos, and he's like, you'll already have some of the best you'll already have some of the best stone form just seeing that drill.
Wow.
So we went after it. My second throw, I broke the light hammer world record. And,
oh, damn.
And for adaptive Highland Games, it's just not very developed. I am no genetic freak. I want that to be super clear. Genetic freaks aren't 4'11", 95 pounds when they go to high school. And it sure as hell doesn't show up after an amputation at 30. I am an outstanding learner, and that's it. And I am great at putting in reps, and my ability to practice is hard to match. So we get going. I throw a couple games. Now, I broken a few world records. I get invited to throw at the Arnold, where they do 4 events. At the Arnold Sports Festival, I ended up breaking 2 world records at the Arnold Sports Festival, so that was cool. Got to do it in front of a crowd. And and for those of you that are listening that are like, what are the Highland Games? It's the route of track and field, actually, and the heavy athletics are the throws. And so a Highland Game consists of 9 events, 9 throws. 8 of them have world records attached. And so, like, there's a couple that are similar to the discus, a couple that are hammer throws, a couple that are look a lot like the shot put, and then there's a couple of the heights. And the heights came naturally to me before I was an amputee, and they came right back. So I break both height world records at the Arnold, and then I have the light hammer record. So I've got 3 at the time, and I didn't know, like, I really wasn't that fired up about it. At this point, I was just like aggressively doing the exploratory thing. I kept trying out new things, playing around with new stuff, and trying to dive into like, okay, what can I figure out that can help other people? And that was like good enough for me in terms of like training. Like, that was a very worthy reason to work my ass off. So I'm working, and the St. Louis Highland Game, which was like my favorite game from my very first season, had shut down the next year, and then COVID happened, and then it was shut down for a couple more years, and it came back, and I saw that it was coming back. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then so I signed up for it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I think all 8 world records are within reach. I'm going to try and break all 8 in one day. It wasn't about breaking 1 or having 8. I was like, I want to go 8 for 8 in one day. And they send out a message, and the first time I'd ever had this message sent to me from a competition, and I don't know why every competition doesn't do this. Hey, we've got an Instagram page going for this event. If you are training for it and you tag us, we're going to reshare it because we'd like to build some hype around the event. We'd like to get it started early so people can maybe follow some stories if there's anything like that going on. So I responded like, hey, I'm an amputee. My goal is to break all 8 adaptive world records at your game. And they're like, bingo. Let's talk. Let's talk. So they got real involved with that. They had me go do a demonstration for the news the week of the event. I was on Tim Azell's show on Channel 2. Showed him how to do a caber and a sheaf. And I ended up going 5 for 8. I ended up breaking 5 of 8 world records in that day.
Dude.
And so that was pretty cool.
That's incredible. How hard were you training before to do that before you showed up to try to knock out all those world records?
So honestly, like I said, it wasn't that I didn't have the power. I knew I had the power and strength. It was a matter of just like getting the techniques dialed in. I was never a thrower before. There's so many little details that go into throwing, especially as you get into rotation, and then all the coordination. So it was just a lot of, honestly, it was just a ton of technique work. And, some of the events are more natural to me than others. And I took those home. So I still kind of have this, I probably only got 1 or 2 more shots to try to go 8 for 8, because if I keep throwing and I keep moving some of these, it's going to be way harder to break all 8 of them in the same day. So I'm thinking I've got 1 or 2 more real good goes at it. I do think that the next time I do throw a Highland game, I will do it.
So you're still planning on doing this sometime in the future?
Yes. It's just got to excite me. I got to be excited. So one thing I realized is okay, I enjoy throwing. It's fun, but it doesn't light my fire the way I want it to. So kind of kept playing around, learning more stuff. I end up meeting a guy named Jamie Croson, and he's got this little garage gym that he's teaching kickboxing.
The Church of Jamie.
The Church of Jamie.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And when I met him, they were in the garage, and eventually we end up meeting at Dope, Matt Vincent's place, and he's like, dude, let me hold pads for you. He's like, I'm just curious. He's like, you seem like you've got some of the basics. He wanted me to go do it, so we hit mitts, and he's like, yeah. He's like, dude, you should. He's like, the second you want to pursue this, let me know. I don't remember what the delay was there. I ended up going to the gym. They're now in an actual location, and I don't need a spotlight on me. I'm there, and I realize that I can help. I told him, I was like, hey, I've been doing strength conditioning for a long time. I do breath work, all this sort of stuff. I was like, I don't want attention for it, but I want to pour gas on your fire, because what you guys have going here is fucking incredible.
Yeah, it is pretty badass what they're doing.
It's unbelievable what's happening. And so I go to one card as just like a fight card on Shamrock event. And that was the last one that I wasn't in the back coaching. After that, I started doing breath work for the fighters, so I started getting more invested in their camps and that process and helping them out here and there with strength conditioning. As they don't really have a way to they can't pay me a living off of it. But I'm helping wherever I can. And the more and more invested, so then I'm doing more training. And I hit a point that I'm like, you know what? I've watched enough guys walk out. I need to do that walk. I can help these guys better, but there's something that happens by actually making the walk, by stepping across that threshold, the door closing. Something happens in there that cannot be reproduced. And this is what I was this is how I'm looking for things to make me feel. I want things to change me. I don't want to just be the same person. I've got way too much time. There's no way I'm perfect. I'm far from it. So I am looking for things that are going to inspire change.
Yeah, dude. And if there is, I don't know how many more insane things there are to do than to get in the octagon with somebody else who wants to fucking kill you. And if anybody who's listening has ever gone to the Shamrock fights, it seems like you go to this casino, you go into this fucking ballroom, and it seems like you're doing something illegal. People are just thrown into this fucking ring to beat the living shit out of each other. It's an awesome experience. Everybody is sitting down in the seats. They're dressed up because they're going to go to this fucking club afterwards. And it's a great experience. I love going out to the Shamrock fights, but I have a client who fought a guy named Jake Murray that I trained for a while, and he went out and did a couple of those fights, man. And man, dude, going out to those fights, I love going out to those fights. I see the energy is unbelievable, and I have not done it, but I cannot imagine you would change your perspective of life. I think going into the octagon.
A little different. The world looks a little different after that. And again, that's what I'm pursuing.
That's what you're pursuing right now.
I want things to make me feel like that.
How much? And you got to fight. Do you have a fight?
I have a fight.
Is it a person? Are you fighting a fully able-bodied person, or is it?
So I'm fighting an amputee.
Okay, gotcha.
I fight it is January 24th. I am less than 20 days out. I'm fighting February 10th.
Damn.
I'm going to be in Indiana.
You fucking ready to go, dude?
Oh, dude. If it was tonight, I'd be okay with it.
Gotcha.
I've hit that point. I started my camp the first week of December. I'm hungry.
Hell yeah, man.
Like a caged dog right now, a little bit.
How much are you training right now?
At least twice most days.
Gotcha, okay.
At least twice most days. At least 3 to 4 strength conditioning sessions. And then usually on those days, I'm doing at least one more. But Tuesday, I train 3 times. So when I get done here, I'm going to go home, get a little bit of food, and I'm going to go spar. I lifted this morning. And yeah, so I was supposed to fight. That's been a challenge as well, because the Missouri Athletic Commission tried to tell, because Shamrock wanted my fight. Jeremy Johnson, dude, went to bat for me hard. And they told him, we will not allow an amputee to fight.
Really?
And so I called. The answer changed a little bit. They put a handful of constraints on it that eliminated Shamrock, because they would not allow boxing. They would only allow me to box, and they would not allow boxing to happen in a cage. The reasoning was not logical, but I don't get to tell them that, or I don't get to change that. And so we found a promoter in St. Louis, Mike Rogers. Good dude, runs gym SC MMA. Again, good spot. I've liked all the fighters I've met and talked to from there. And so they're trying to put me on a card that was this past October. We're training, we're in camp. We get told we've got a match. We've got a matchup. We've got a guy that's accepted. 2 weeks later, we find out that he's backed out, and then 7 more people have backed out of fighting me. They didn't want. They accepted, looked me up, and said no.
Yeah,
and
I watched you. I wouldn't want to fight you.
Well, that's all I need. That's all I need. I just want people to not want to fight.
Right.
So that ends up falling apart. Big bummer. Big bummer. And then within a month though, I get a call from a guy that I had met while I was coaching at the stand-up fight series at the Casa Loma Ballroom. He's in the back with me, and we just kind of got along all night. And so as I'm doing breath work with the guys, he's getting curious. He's only got one guy. He traveled there from Ohio. His guy's fighting in like the main event. And he hits me up. This guy is a bigger name in Ohio in terms of like matchmaking, the commission. He's a head ref. Heck, I just saw a video of him the other day. He's reffing a fight. Fighter's shoulder gets dislocated. He walks up, puts it right back in. Let's go.
Back to business?
Back to business.
Oh, like to see that these motherfuckers are crazy. Yeah. It's the craziest people out there, man.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
And so this guy, he hits me up. He's like, hey, I had a guy reach out to me in Indiana. He's got an amputee that's done a couple boxing matches. He'd like to fight an amputee. Now, before when I was going to box, I was going to box an able-bodied athlete, which is kind of my preference because I don't want to have to deal with insecure men qualifying. So, well, yeah, but you beat an amputee, so...
Yeah, I feel that.
So, like, you know what? I don't want to have to deal with that. And more than anything, it just doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't care that I'm missing a leg. I'm not going to make it your problem. Let's go.
100%.
So they hit me up. He's like, hey, are you interested in this? I was like, yeah. They reach out to me. Come to find out, Indiana does not license kickboxing, basically meaning as long as the two people are on weight and they agree to fight, they can do it. They asked me to kickbox, which I like a lot better. I like kickboxing a lot better than boxing. It's just more my thing. I also understand kicking better, and I understand the strategy. It's more natural.
So what's the biggest challenge for you right now boxing with prosthetic?
Getting a matchup.
Yeah, right. Yeah, dude, I love that fucking mentality on you, man.
From a skill point, like everything that you get from your foot and ankle, which is a lot, I don't have. So we've had to learn. It's not that, but like a good punch is a good punch. Defense is defense. Like there's the only thing that exists inside of that cage or that ring is the truth. Don't tell me, like, this is why Jamie worked out and other gyms weren't going to. They just treated me like an athlete instead of like an amputee. And, oh, good job. Good trying, dog. None of that existed. I even told Jamie, I was like, the second you tell me something was good and it wasn't, I'm out.
Yeah.
It won't work because I can't have that being told if I'm going to go fight. So it's just been a lot of figuring it out and learning how to basically figure out the same movement. It's like a detour. But good movement's good movement. Deadlift didn't change because I lost my foot. I had to kind of learn a new way to think about executing it.
Yeah. Do you have any like what's the word for it? Like do you ever feel like your foot is there, like phantom pains or like phantom feelings?
I did early
that like throw you off.
I did early on. It's not really been a huge challenge for me though. Again, that was part of that surgery. There was work done on the nerves to prevent that. There's a procedure now that can be done called targeted muscle reinnervation, TMR, where in the past, cut and close amputation, those nerves are just left free floating. Those nerves are looking for that foot, insert phantom sensations and pain.
Oh.
And TMR, those nerve endings are embedded into the muscle bellies and they've got a place to go.
Gotcha.
And so that's supposed to just be absolute magic. I don't have a before and after because my original surgery, it was done. So no, phantom pains are very, very minimal for me. I'm extremely fortunate in that regard.
Do you deal with with your current clients right now who are like, who you're helping, who are amputees? Do they deal with anything? What's their better yet? What's their biggest challenge that you have to help them with? And how do you do it?
So I know this isn't the answer you're probably looking for. We'll get into that answer, but their biggest challenge is finding someone they can actually help. Again, someone that's going to hold them to a standard, someone that actually understands what's going on. And like I would never blame you for not understanding how to teach an amputee stuff. You've never experienced it. You don't know what it's like to put a socket on. You don't know what it's like to have a fake foot that you have to treat as a real foot. But so like, it's hard to find people that are good at this.
Yeah.
So like that's first and foremost is getting good information. That's partly why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, I was a year in and I remember getting a DM from a guy, he does powerlifting, and he's like, I've been an amputee for 10 years and you seem to understand how to deadlift better than me. Will you help? That's how hard it is to find good information.
Yeah, man. And like, to your point, man, I always think, dude, inspire through action, man. Like, if I'm somebody who's going to help you, it's because I did that shit before. It's going to be very difficult if I have no empathy.
Yeah. I don't try to be an inspiration. I try to be an example.
Yeah.
I want, if I'm going to inspire anything, I want it to be action. It's not about feel good.
Truth is far often more seen than heard.
Yes.
In my mind. Yeah.
It's truth. The only truth is action.
Yeah. I fully agree with that. You have to feel that.
But don't say you're sorry. Show me.
Right.
Right.
Right. 100%.
So that's really like the biggest challenge is like, there's so much information that's put out there based on what people assume it's like. And so like, it's really hard to get through some of that messaging and to like, I know that's what you've been told. I know he's a PT. I know he's got a whatever letter behind his name. How many feet does he have? Cool. How long has he spent doing exercise? Well, he's kind of, I was like, how in shape is he? Well, he's a little overweight. Okay. So you're telling me that he's telling you to do stuff that he doesn't even believe in himself. Oh, shit.
This is such a fucking thing. This is such a thing. And it's hard because like PTs out there, dude, like I said, I've been a trainer for 11 years. PTs out there, to some degree, the industry kind of just throws people into a pool where they've just got to like pool any kind of, and any client who's willing to pay, you know? And I feel like this is where like, you know, you're just dealing with all sorts of different types of people, just trying your best to, especially in the first years. It's like, but to your point, like you really can't help all of these different people.
No.
You can only really help these people that you have a deep understanding of what's going on. And so the only way you can have a deep understanding is that you've done that shit before. Dude, like, and this is interesting. I've never had an ACL tear. I've helped a lot of people like build like strength back in their muscles and ligaments around it so that they can like, and I just actually had a guy who had a ACL tear. He tore it when he was doing some skiing. He went back actually just literally 2 weeks ago to hit Breckenridge, like for the first time since he did it. But he dealt with such the mental side of it, fully healed, fully strengthened. But the mental side of it it's so crippling. It's like there's no pain, but like he's very, very timid and like totally backs off. We had to really work with that, but it was difficult because I never had an ACL tear, but I've had plenty of clients. Do you deal with any kind of like mental?
So that was going to be
hurdles?
like my, like probably more to what you were asking. It's teaching them to be confident in their device and to treat it like a foot. These things are designed to operate under perfect mechanics, which is really hard to have.
Yeah.
So, and we don't have the sensory input to help cue these perfect mechanics. So like teaching them to be confident in their device is the most important thing. Until that happens, everything's going to be guarded, protected, and as a result, restricted. And that's no different than that's no different than any other rehab. That is the same thing. The same thing that guy dealt with, every amputee deals with when they go to try to do things that are a little on the more unknown side.
And when you put somebody in those, let's say, situations, are they risky situations? Do you have to put them in risky situations?
More like we need to go 1/2 step outside of where you've been. And we're going to own it. And then another 1/2 step and another 1/2 step and another. One big thing that I've really kind of emphasized in my messaging and my teaching and how I do progressions is we don't learn in jumps, we learn in steps.
Gotcha.
Like when you try to learn things in big jumps, yes, occasionally you'll hit it. But it's not a reliable, repeatable result. But when you just take it one little step at a time, it becomes reliable, repeatable, and you have a foundation to build off of. And that right there is the big difference. It's like you can sit there and try to see it like the comic book that if I could draw, I would have drawn by now. Is there's this fence, and you're trying to see over the fence. You can sit there and you can jump, and occasionally you're going to get a glance over there, but not every time. Or you can go to work building stairs that you can walk up.
Yeah.
And then you're there because you have it.
Oh, I love that. That's a good example. Or that's a good metaphor. Love that.
Yeah. So like that's like how I think about the whole learning process. And like, so how uncomfortable do we need to be? A little bit more.
100%, dude. And like, there's probably multiple. So I guess I have a few questions there about the actual prosthetic. Are there different legs?
Oh yeah.
and like that are used for different things?
Yeah. So I've got feet. I think I've got 5 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, something like that. So like you've got your like really basic categories would be like your everyday leg, which is just something that's designed to be comfortable to walk around in. Typically has a lot more force absorption, not as much return because you're just walking in it. Then you've got like your sport legs, which would be, there are like hybrid type legs that like they have a heel and they're more explosive, which is what I wear for an everyday foot actually. And then there are like your running blades, which are just straight energy return. They're very explosive. They're what you jump, you run. Running is a very explosive extrapolation of your gait. And so
is that kind of like the person, there was an amputee that had 2 blades and then they won a record in the Olympics, I believe. And then they got that record pulled.
Are you talking about Oscar Pistorius?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about that situation?
So that was a running blade. So what he's using is running blades. In fact, running blades, he was a huge part of developing what a modern day running blade is. He was tested extensively, and part of the reason he was tested so extensively is because they were trying to come up with the reason he shouldn't be allowed to compete.
Yeah.
And the reality is he wasn't winning things. He was just qualifying. And they didn't like the idea, and people got insecure about it. And so they kept trying to prove that he had an unfair advantage by missing feet while he's running.
Which is fucking insane.
But that was the reality. That's what was going on. That's why it was tested so hard. And the reason they had to keep testing is because it kept coming back that while it may be different, he had no advantage.
Right. Dude, I mean, look, the fucking mental side of like showing up to a fucking race with no legs is fucking insane to me. Yeah. Like that is like that alone, man, because really this whole thing always, it comes back down to like not your perception, but your perspective.
Yeah.
It's like,
what's the difference?
Like your ability to not just like perceive what is happening, but have a perspective of how it's happening. Correct. Like I can look at the same situation and I say, for example, if for some reason, like this is the easiest way to put it, something really bad happens to you, good. Something really, really bad happens to you, good. Why? Because it's going to strengthen me. If you ask the universe for strength, it's going to give you weight to carry.
Correct.
And so when you're when you're asking for a lot of strength, it's going to give you a lot of fucking weight. It's going to be hard to carry. So in my mind, when shit gets fucking hard and heavy and difficult, my perspective is like I'm not just perceiving what's happening to me. You've already sort of said this in your own way, where it's like, dude, look, like I'm not going to be a victim to this thing. Like I'm going to use this thing because this thing is going to make me a fucking champion. End of story. The more difficult, the more champion. It's like these two things exist. So that's what I sort of mean. And I that's sort of like my message is that like, that's why anything impossible is worth pursuing.
No, fuck yeah.
Because it's like, dude, you pursuing the impossible will make you a fucking champion amongst men. But if you look at it like it's impossible and that's what stops you, well, then you're stuck and you're fucked. And if you look at something that's difficult and you're like, well, that's difficult, and you worry and you spend any energy on this is hard or this is difficult, then you're just going to be completely fucking fucked because you're just wasting all your energy on, dude, spend all of your energy and time on the fight.
Yeah.
You don't have any energy to focus on any of this other stuff that doesn't matter. Focus on the fight. So that's kind of my thing.
So I think about that like this. Yeah, that's going to be really hard. But as a guy who had all his options stripped from him at 21, what options do I have when I figure it out? What else does this allow me to do? And instead of looking at how hard it's going to be, I look at what it can give me. So what happens whenever I now have the unlock of I can go into a cage and I can fight another person and I can win, I can this, I can that, I can get punched, I can get kicked, I can get knocked down. I know. I don't think about it. I know now because I have this undeniable proof. What options in life does that give me? I'm running a 30K in Bryce Canyon in Utah in May.
Fuck yeah, dude. I love hearing that shit.
And so like, that's my next
thing. That's my sport.
Running. Okay. We're going to have to get one in then.
Let's go.
What happens when I get into that's going to provide 30K in a desert with 2,000 feet of climbing. I'm going to get myself into a tough spot. That's what I wanted. What from this fight, I'm probably going to be able to pull things from this fight that's going to be like, allows me to stay present. Again, I talked about not disassociating from my pain, learning how to operate with it. I'm going to get into pain. I'm going to be in pain. It's going to hurt. I'm going to, like, what options does this fight give me? Well, it's a lot of ability to operate under stress. It's all these like things that it gives you. Learn this skill. I could box. I'm choosing to kickbox. It's much harder to kick with one foot than it is with two. Weird, I know. No, I'm sure no one would have thought that. But dude, like, it's much harder. But now, what does that give me by learning that hard skill? Balance, proprioception, ability to rotate, accelerate, be accurate. All these things are massively valuable things to somebody who's missing a limb, who's operating on a prosthetic. So now that I have that, what other things do I have that require a lesser version of that? All of it. All of those things are options because I've learned that much harder skill. And I stuck it out. And I didn't just learn how to put a foot on something. I learned how to do it right and drive through it and actually put power on it. That's way different.
Dude, your spirit and your perspective is fucking amazing, man.
I know, right?
Do you think that a lot of this has been built and you've gotten the strength, all of the strength to this point from your situation? If you could go back and not do that run that you did so long ago, would you take it back?
No.
You do it.
I am who I chose to be. And it's that simple. So are you. So is your producer. And so is everyone listening to this. Like it, love it, or hate it. You are exactly who you've chosen to be. That's it. I know who I want to choose to be. I know who I want to be. I'm willing to come on here and say it. I want to be that motherfucker. I don't want there, like, yeah, I love the fact that, like, I see no obstacles. I don't have problems. I have things I haven't solved yet. And it's, again, that simple.
Hell yeah, man. What's in the future for you, man? What's your biggest ambition for the future?
Oof. I don't know, but it's going to scare the shit out of me.
Good shit, man. Yeah,
like I'm going to find that thing. I'm going to keep taking steps to find that thing that maybe breaks me. That actually talk about running. Have you heard of the last man standing races?
Yeah, man. Like the backyards, like the backyard ultras. Yeah, fuck yeah. I had a guy on here that's done like 10 of them.
That's a part of the plan.
Hell yeah.
I want to get into shit like that.
See, ultra marathon running, I've got a 130-mile race I'm training for right now in April. It's called the Lion's Roar. I'm going to try to knock out 130 miles in under 24 hours. So that's what my current craziness. I've got
that's
5 miles of running before we did this. I got 5 miles after. Right now I'm on 2-a-days and about 75 miles. I'm only on week 4. I'm at like 75 miles. But I got 30 miles on the weekend. It's so like that's my current thing. My longest run is 100 miles in under 24 hours. Knocked out. I'm wearing the fucking Ironman. I just did an Ironman in Italy over the weekend. I just went to Italy over the weekend. No, but like ultra running is fucking insane because it requires you to be present with your pain, dude. Be present with the suffering, dude. And you learn the fucking ins and outs and every bit of the architecture of your mind. You have to spend so much time with it.
You got the time to do it. What else are you gonna do?
And so for that. Like I do that. I don't have any. I'm like, dude. I don't have any prosthetics or anything like that. I don't have any. I'm not an amputee. Like I can only imagine the difficulty. Is that why you want to do? Is that why you want to get into these ultra marathons?
What options do I have if I can do this?
Yeah, dude.
Plain and simple. Like I'm not excited. Like to be honest, like I don't sit here. I have no love of running. Whenever I couldn't run anymore, it wasn't like, damn, I wish I could run. But I don't like being limited. And so if I chose to not run. I was gifted a running blade from the organization, from the nonprofit that I work for now, Less Like More Heart. I was gifted a running blade. When I got that blade, there was really one physical skill I didn't have that could limit my life experience, and that was running. So I can sit there and not run. I've got all the excuses in the world to do it. I can deadlift 500 pounds. I'm already strong. I've done this. I can reasonably fight. I've X, Y, Z. I've got all the excuses, but the reality, that's how I got hurt. Like I got hurt on a run. My life kind of almost ended because of a run.
Right, 100%.
But if I choose not to run because of that, that means running gets a vote in my life. and I'm the only one that gets a vote in my life. Plain and simple.
Oh, dude, explain that. What do you mean?
Like
Running gets a vote.
Like if I choose not to run and I hide from that, running now gets a say in the things I can and can't do. Again, I'm not going to run a 30K because I've just been so motivated to run a 30K. I'm doing it because I want to know that that's something I can do and I have that option available. But if I intentionally hide from it, it's like whenever somebody is like, oh, well, I'm not going to do this because everybody else is doing it. Well, you're still letting the same thing. You're not choosing your action. It's the same thing as doing it because everyone else is doing it. Choose it because you want to do it or you don't want to do it. Not because of what other people are doing. It's the exact same. That's the exact same thing. So for me, again, if I hide from running, I'm letting running vote in my options for life experiences. I love the desert. I think it's a beautiful place. My favorite, like I love a good Western setting.
Yeah, dude.
Like in a movie. Like
100%.
So like this race in Bryce Canyon is an incredible way to experience 19 miles worth of that desert. All I have to do is come in and shape enough to enjoy it.
100%.
That's the cost. That's the cost of it all. That's it. I want experiences that I have to earn. And all I have to do to earn it is go run.
Hell yeah, man.
Okay.
Dude, your story has been remarkable, dude. We're running out of time. I appreciate you so much for fucking coming on. I got one more question for you, man.
All right.
It's been awesome. And like that's the message. The message is no matter what happens to you out there, no matter how bad it fucking can get, because it can get fucking bad, like you can use that as your strength. You know, like to some degree, you're stronger for your trauma. Your suffering is your gift.
I'm an alchemist.
You're an alchemist. You said that earlier, and that's exactly what you are, dude.
I turned it into something else.
It's fucking amazing. And I'm so happy you were on here, because if I can continue to spread your message, man, if I can get one more person to hear your message, dude, I did what I tried to do with this podcast, because your message is fucking inspiring, dude. So fuck yeah. And thank you for fucking coming on.
Nah, dude, I'm stoked to be here, man.
The last question I got for you, man, I asked this to everybody. If you had the ear of every person on the planet and you had one message to give them, what would it be? Everyone's paying attention to you.
I think I'm going to go back to what I already said in this one. You are who you choose to be. Choose wisely.
Hell yeah, man. Well said.
Thank you. Good
shit. Well, thank you so much for coming on, dude. Thank you so much. This has been an awesome experience. It's been super fun. Man, that was fucking good. I'm happy that Sean introduced me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is a good time. I would imagine this is not the last time I'll be in the building.
No doubt. And you know what? Here's the gig, brother. Like, moving to another place, I'm gonna have hopefully within a year, and I'm gonna have an actual studio that's in the gym. And my goal, so hopefully this is my goal, is to have the studio have a window that shows like the open access gym, and I want to have 55 to 9,000 square feet of like a gym that's sort of like this, with all sorts of cool lights, with like space shit happening. I don't know. Yeah. It'll be cool. It'll all be Rogue equipment. It'll be sort of like I would say like a fancy CrossFit gym, but like fancy. I want like a chandelier and stuff. Any case, like
little disco ball in the corner.
100%. And while we're doing the podcast in the studio, like the gym's going, so people in the gym can like look into the fucking podcast while the podcast is happening. And I think that'll be a really cool thing. And I would definitely have you on, because I want to know what happens. One, I'm gonna just be paying attention to you, because I want to know what happens in your fight. I want to, and fucking maybe even come out and watch.
Dude.
Because that would be dope. And I just appreciate you so much for being on the podcast, dude. Where can they find you? Where can they follow you? Where can they support you, my man?
All right. So biggest one I've got right now is my Instagram, at Sam Schaefer 1. I'm sure this will be linked.
100%. Everything's in it.
I know there's like 97 ways to spell Schaefer, and they all make sense. SAMSCHAEFER, the number 1. That's it on Instagram. I'm on YouTube just as Sam Schaefer, working on building that up right now. Kind of finding my legs on that. it's one of these things, like I was starting to like vlog my running training, and then I took the fight, and it's like, well, you don't really want to show a ton of your training on that one. So we'll figure that one out. But yeah, so YouTube, Sam Schaefer, Instagram at Sam Schaefer1, and shoot me a DM if I can help. I want to. That's the whole point, is I want to, I talked about tools a bunch. I want to share the tools. Like, you don't have to lose your leg to be grateful you can walk around. It helps, but like, you don't have to. So like, I want to share those tools. And like I said, we talked about it before we were recording, that like, the worst thing you've ever experienced is the worst thing you've ever experienced. I don't want people to get from my message, oh man, he had it way worse than me, I should suck it up. No, the worst thing you've dealt with is the worst thing you dealt with. Use these tools to deal with it. The comparison's the thief of joy. And when it comes to that sort of stuff, talking down to yourself is about a 0% success rate.
That's 100% true, man. And I love that last bit, man. Comparison is definitely the thief of joy, and you're 100% right, dude. It's like, just have the perspective of positivity, and that everything you're going through, man, can be your strength. And I think even if that's lunacy, like, be a lunatic.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, brother. That was fucking badass. You guys, thank you for listening. People in the podcast. Trey, thank you for fucking being on the other end and being here to produce the podcast. You guys can like, subscribe, do all the stuff that you do for all the influencer people. That's all down in the description. I will have the website. I will have how you can find Sam Schaefer. And dude, thank you so much. And guys, remember to always think big, to live better. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace.